The Seattle Mariners and Mitch Garver are in agreement on a 2-year, $24 million deal. The Mariners' first big free agent signing of the offseason. It's December 24th, literally Christmas Eve, and Jerry's out here making deals. He couldn't have picked like a slower day, literally one of the most busy days for everybody, and Jerry's like, yep, send it. Mitch Garver is going to be a big factor for the Seattle Mariners, the DH position, and possibly as a backup to the backup catcher, if you will. Let's break down what this deal means, what it looks like for the rest of the offseason for the Mariners, and where it leaves this team in terms of its offensive production. Jeff Passan was the one to break this. He said catcher Mitch Garver and the Seattle Mariners are in agreement on a 2-year, $24 million contract, pending physical, sources tell ESPN. Now, Garver will be turning 33 years old in January, so, he'll be 35 at the end of this contract for him. And last year, he was a very, very productive player. In 87 games, he hit 270, 370, 500 with a 134 OPS plus with 19 home runs and 50 RBI. Now, we have to talk a little bit about his games played because he's only played in 100 games once in his entire career, and that was in 2018. Obviously, 2020, the COVID-shortened year, Mitch Garver gets injured a lot. And MLB Trade Rumors broke this down really, really well. They said this continued a pattern of injuries that has plagued Garver throughout his career, as he's played in only 232 of the possible 546 games since the start of the 2020 season. These health issues, ranging from forearm surgery and intercostal strain and knee, groin, and back problems, have contributed to Garver's increasingly limited usage at catcher, as the move to a DH role should help him stay on the field with a bit more regularity. And if we look at his games by position, Mitch Garver has not really been catching. Only 28 times in 2023. He was a DH 57 times. Now, with that being said, he was also a catcher in 2022 for only 14 games and then 36 games at DH. Again, Mitch Garver just doesn't play that many baseball games. Now, for me, that is an issue because yes, Mitch Garver was really good in 2023, but if you can sign this guy and he's not going to be on the field for over half your season, who cares how good he is? I mean, realistically, think about how frustrating it was with Mitch Haniger or even Tom Murphy, for example. Tom's the guy who you could have brought back on literally a third of the price that they paid Mitch Garver, and he was honestly maybe a better player last year. With that being said, of course, Tom was hurt a little bit more. Obviously, Tom Murphy is the better catcher in my opinion over Mitch Garver, but I think Garver overall is the better player. And realistically, how much would you get out of Tom Murphy? I don't know. In 2024, I'm happy that he went to the Giants because he's going to be there with Mitch. So, hey, why not? So let's just make this abundantly clear. Mitch Garver is not the backup catcher. Seby Zavala is still the backup catcher for Cal Raleigh. Mitch Garver is basically your everyday DH. You can put him at first base. He's played in a whole 15 games at first base in his career, but realistically, you just want him as your DH and your emergency catcher. Good guy to have. Obviously, he played a big role for the Rangers in their World Series title run, but again, Mitch Garver, you're lucky if you get half a season out of him, and that sucks. Another thing that I am worried about with Garver is that you spent $12 million a year. Let's just assume, right, this is a 2-year, $24 million deal, so we'll just call it $12 million a year, AAV. Who knows if something's backloaded or what have you. You basically just spent half of your rumored budget for this offseason on Mitch Garver. If you have $25 million to play with, you just spent half of it. And if you only have $20 million, you got $8 million left to go out there and fill corner outfield. I still really, really want them to go out there and fix one of either second or third base because, my God, if I have to watch Luis Urias and Josh Rojas in the same lineup every single night, I'm going to tear my hair out. So those are kind of the warts I think Garver has, but let's now talk about some positives for the guy for a change, huh? Garver has a career 123 OPS plus, and we know that he has a lot of power, as in 2019 he did hit 31 home runs. How well that will translate to T-Mobile Park will be interesting to see. His strikeout percentage is above league average at 25.6, whereas league average is 22.6, so about 3% more, and his walk percentage is also above league average, a little under 3%. But his home run percentage is also above league average at 5% instead of the 3.2 that the MLB averages, and he hits the ball hard at a 46.4% rate compared to the league average of 38.8. Now, that was a lot of numbers and mumbo jumbo, so let's look at his percentile rankings in 2023, and as you can see, Mitch Garver does pull the ball with authority, with most of his home runs coming to left field. He does not chase that much. He's in the 98th percentile in chase rate and in the 90th percentile in walk rate. Again, all the other numbers are not all that exciting, in my opinion, for Mitch Garver, and a guy who doesn't play all that often, sure, whatever. But nonetheless, his barrel percentage is really high, his expected slugging is really high, and that chase rate and walk rate are both really, really good. In 2022, he played in even less games, and, well, his numbers weren't as spectacular, but you could still see he doesn't chase that much, and his walk rate was still pretty high as well. Very limited sample size, but Mitch Garver did hit 344 versus lefties in 64 at-bats, compared to his 250 versus righties in 232 at-bats. With that being said, he also hit 19 home runs versus right-handed pitching. So maybe if they're planning on throwing Mitch Garver behind the plate, they would put him in there versus lefties and let Cal take the day off his feet, or have Cal DH versus left-handed pitchers. And it's worth noting here that Garver is the first player that the Mariners front office under the DePoto regime has signed to a multi-year contract, and the most money they've given out to a hitter. It was AJ Pollock at 1 year, $8 million, but now it's Mitch Garver at 2 years, $24. That does worry me a little bit, right, when I look at that and say, is Mitch Garver it? Because this can't be it for the Seattle Mariners. This has to be the start of their additions throughout this offseason. This offense is not nearly as good as it needs to be to keep up with the teams around them by just adding Mitch Garver, especially when he's probably only going to play 70 to 80 games. He's done it for 7 years. We have seen who Mitch Garver is. He's a good player when he's healthy. He's just not very healthy. This likely also takes the Mariners out of the running for Teoscar Hernandez, Jorge Soler, and JD Martinez, right? These guys are just not going to come to the Mariners now. So I would have literally rather had any of those three over Mitch Garver. And again, I'm not complaining about this Mitch Garver signing because at least the Mariners did something. And they went out there and they spent some money this offseason. I love that for them. And if they're able to replace, corner outfield spots via trade or what have you to keep the cost down, then great. But as of right now, as of what we're seeing this offseason, we just got to take what we can get from the Seattle Mariners, and that was signing Mitch Garver. Now let's see where he fits in this lineup. So in my opinion, this is what we're looking at right now with Garver slotting into the cleanup spot behind Cal Raleigh and ahead of Ty France. The 6 through 9 on here, LOL, funny number 69. The 6 through 9 in this Mariners offense is rough, with Canzone in right, Urias at third, Rojas at second, and Marlowe in left field. Of course, this could change, obviously, by opening day, and in my opinion, it better change by opening day. But for the top four, I mean, that's a pretty good top four. With that being said, I still think that last year's top four was better when you just replace Teoscar Hernandez here instead of Mitch Garver. But nonetheless, Ty France, hopefully a big bounce back from him, would make the top starting five for the Mariners pretty formidable. So the Hit It Here podcast is coming out tomorrow. We're not going to mention Mitch Garver at all because, frankly, Joe and I already recorded it, and it's coming out on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to all of you. Make sure you go check out this video on the screen now, and congrats on the Mitch Garver signing, and go Mariners.